Greetings friends and welcome to the character creation screen. Friends, in this video I'm going to show you how to make your own characters. You can customize their hair, you can customize the color of all sorts of various things, you can change what eyes they have, their mouth, their nose, all these various bits and bobs. I'm also going to show you how to switch pages so that you can have all sorts of various features that don't clog up the interface too much. I'm going to show you some basic stuff about interfaces, and then of course I'm going to show you how to make the character that you've created persist in dreams, so that if you start in one scene and go to the next one, your character will be there in all their customized beautiful glory. Alrighty friends, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Alrighty, so we're going to start off with our character over here. This can of course be your character from your dreams, whatever it might be, and we're going to set up a bit of the sort of user interface vibe. So we're going to go into gadgets, we're going to get ourselves a camera, and we're going to place it so that our character is on the right or on the left or in the middle, wherever you prefer. I'm going to put my character sort of on the right, a little bit more on the right of the screen, and then I'll have my interface sort of in this region. Okay, sweet. Next up, I'm actually going to start straight away by designing our character's various hairstyles. So by default, they're a baldy. And now I'm going to, go over how to add some hairstyles. So first you're going to go L1 and X on your puppet so you can sort of highlight the individual elements. Now I'm going to go Guides, Grid Snap, and make a copy of their head. Now this head is just going to be a base for the hairstyle so that I can see what's going on. I can turn off my Grid Snap now. Now L1 and X on my little hairstyle over here, or sorry, on my little head over here. This is going to be the base for my hairstyle. And now I'm going to make sure that my mirror is on so that I can get a nice sort of symmetrical hairstyle. Unless, of course, you don't want a symmetrical hairstyle and you want it to be all funky and anime. That's cool. But yes, so I'm going to start with a little cone here. And I'm going to make a sort of classic spiky hair sort of vibe. Nice, shonen character. Alrighty. Let's just get some spiky hair in this region. They've got a bit of a bald spot, so I'm just gonna fill that in with some hair. Alrighty, so that's pretty cool. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the base, that little head base that I had there, turn the grid snap on once again, and then I'm going to go grab it with R2, and then when I'm hovering over the head, I'm going to go L1 and X so that it becomes part of the head group itself, and then I will let go, and that is looking pretty cool. You're also going to want to go and into your little hairstyle, and you're going to want to turn off movable, because if I play right now, the hair is just gonna it's just gonna fall off, because by at the moment it's just a sculpt, and it's kind of like, ooh, I'm a sculpt, so I'm gonna be movable. So I'm going to make that no longer movable, and now the hair is stuck to my little puppet's head. Okay, sweet friends, so that's how you design a hairstyle. I'm going to design just some extras in the background, and I will add them in. Whoop whoop. Okay, sweet friends, so now I have some more hairstyles. I'm just going to go and move them. Whoopsie. I'm going to go and move them into the old head sort of group. Just like that. Remember to use your grid snaps for this. And now I've got some funky hairstyles going on, which is pretty cool. Of course, at the moment, they're all sort of overlapping with each other, which isn't a vibe. And now I'm going to show you how to actually differentiate between your various hairstyles. So we're going to go into our character, and we're going to create ourselves a microchip. This microchip will be our customization microchip. So you can call it customization. You can spell it with a Z or an S, whichever you prefer. All are valid. And I'm going to go custom icon. And I'm just going to, so we know what we're talking about here. And now I'm going to go and put in another microchip. And this one is going to be all our sort of hair related business. So it'll be hair color and hair and, all those sorts of variables that are important. And speaking of variables, we are going to create one. So we're going to go logic and processing and get ourselves a variable, and we will call this one hair. The minimum value will be 0, and the maximum value we will talk about now. So our character technically has 4 hairstyles. Number 0 is bald. Number 1 will be, let's say, their spiky hair. Number 2 will be their sort of tall hair. And number 3 will be their kind of cool wavy hair that we've got over here. So what I would say for that is, so the first one is 0, then we've got 3 hairstyles. So I will say the max will be 3. Of course, you can make this any value. You can make as many hairstyles as you like. But we're going to start with just 4, with the max being 3, because of course we're counting 0 as a value. So now we're going to go calculator, and we're going to go when the value of hair that we're going to plug into the old A port is equal to 0, then something's going to happen. Of course, for hair, we don't have to do anything here because the default thing will just be bald, so nothing's actually going to happen. So the next thing that we're going to do is copy this. We're going to go current value connected to A, and we'll make it so that when our value is equal to 1, then it's going to activate our first hairstyle. But of course, at the moment, all of our hairstyles are showing up at the same time. So what we'll do here is we will select all of our hairstyles with X, and then we will make each of them invisible. That's looking pretty cool. You might need to toggle preview invisibility to see the effects of that. So then once that is sort of activated, so by default our character is bald, so when this is equal to 0 it's going to do nothing. But when it is equal to 1, it's of course going to activate our first hairstyle, or turn on our first hairstyle. So for that we'll put down a little keyframe. We'll make sure that our preview invisibility is off, and then we will say, okay, cool, the spiky one, I want that one to be turned on, I want that one to be visible when the hairstyle variable is equal to 1. Okay, sweet. So let's go preview invisibility, turn that off. Okay, sweet, sweet. So now our hair value is 0, so we have no hair. However, if our hair value is 1, and we start again, then we'll see that, okay, cool, it's checking this, and now we have a calculator, and we have our first hairstyle showing up. So that's looking fab. But now we want to, of course, do the same thing for our other hairstyles, which is going to be super easy. So we're going to connect this here when our value is equal to 2. Then we're going to do another keyframe. And this keyframe will be affecting not our spiky hair, but we'll make it our tall hairstyle over here. Hashtag Paul Phoenix vibes. And of course, remember to connect these. So now when our value is, you're going to be toggling preview invisibility on and off a lot in this one, friends, so get used to that, just to check that everything's working all right. So now I'm going to go hair, and I'm going to make that value 2. And now we've got our tall hair over here. Swing. Not the most creative design, friends. You'll have to forgive me, but I think, you know, creating the logic is the key element here. I'm sure I will leave that creativity up to you. Okay, sweet. And then, of course, if we want our final hairstyle, we will copy this again. And you guessed it, this value is going to be 3. And then we will go, sweet, sweet, sweet. We'll make a new keyframe. And this keyframe will activate our third hairstyle. So we'll go turn off preview invisibility. And our third hairstyle is our cool wavy one over here. And that is like that. Make sure you make the connection. Make sure the old preview invisibility is on. And then we will go hairstyle 3. And now we have our third sort of wavy hairstyle. How cool is that, friends? So this is how the logic works. And of course, if it's equal to 0, then it's just going to turn us back into our original bald self. So friends, this is pretty chilled, this logic over here, but now we want to actually turn it into a bit of a user interface. So let's get stuck in with that. So we want to get stuck in with our user interface. What we're going to be using is a bunch of text displayers. So I'm going to close these guys for now. And remember that camera we placed a little bit earlier on? If you haven't placed it, Now would be a good time. We're going to go into our camera so that we can see where everything sort of is. That's looking pretty cool. We can have our little logic microchips over here. That's looking cool. And now we're going to go into moves and output, and we're going to start designing our user interface, friends. So I'm going to go text displayer, and I'm going to put that down over here. And this one, I'm going to, where it says enter text, I'm going to go into that, and then I'm just going to press triangle, which just makes a space. And then I'm going to go text box properties. I'm going to go auto fit and turn that off. And now I can have fun and design my interface as I wish, as I desire. You can get creative here. You can make all sorts of crazy stuff. Creativity. You can do all these things, friends. It's totally up to you. I'm going to keep it nice and simple for now so that we can, so it remains legible and all these sorts of things. I also won't make it too huge. You might want to do a bit of like a thickening of the border there. I like thickening the border there, so it's just a little bit clearer, a little bit more of an offset from the rest of your dreams. And that's looking pretty sweet. So that's looking cool. Next up, I'm just going to copy this chap, but this one I'm going to turn the border off, and I'm going to make it just text, and it's going to be create your character. Create your character. And this one I'm going to place sort of near the top. I'm sort of freehanding this, friends. If you want to be like super exact, you can of course use all the various bits and bobs. I'm going to turn off the border as well. Create your character. And I'm going to turn off the shadow. So I've got create your character. And you can have all sorts of crazy fonts. That's actually pretty cool. So we have create your character. You might want to reduce the size of that somewhat. And of course you can align these things and have all sorts of fun with that. But I'm just keeping it simple for now. So you have your create your character little heading here. So now what I'm going to do next, sorry, we are running out of space a bit here, friends, so I'm just going to move. We now know that this is the region where our thing is, and we know that it looks good. If we go into our camera, we're like, okay, cool, this looks cool with where our character's position is. So it's just important for setting up these sort of the sort of base of your interface, that you see where it is and where it lines up with your camera. But now that we've placed it, we should be good. Okay, sweet. So we have our little base in terms of our interface, and now we're going to start cracking on with the next bit. So I'm going to copy this because I like that sort of font, and I'm going to go, okay, sweet. So I've got create your character over here. Now I'm going to have my first sort of value that I can edit, and it's going to be hair. Let's go for all caps. So we've got hair. That's looking pretty cool. We can of course reduce the old size there as we desire. So first we'll have hair, and that's looking pretty cool. And then next to hair we will have just like a bit of a value slider. And so what we might do for this, friends, is create like a bit of we'll do a little bit of an angle bracket and then another angle bracket, and you can just sort of arrange it like this. So I've got an angle bracket, and at the moment it doesn't look that impressive, so you might want to put like a bit more of a space between them. You might want to make them slightly larger. So let's say if I do it like over here, I'm going to create a bit more of a space between them, and you can be like, okay, sweet. So this is where my sort of hair is going to be. And then, of course, you can make yourself anything that you want in here. So you can make this like a value, for example. So you could make it like, okay, cool. When I'm on hair, I've got various hairstyles. So I'm going to put down a little number displayer. And this number displayer is going to be over here. We'll turn off the background. We'll turn off all the various bits and bobs, so that we've just got our nice font. What font did I go for here again? 28, okay. So we've got 28, you can line it up. And you can be like, okay, cool, cool, cool. So I've got my numerical value over here, and that's looking pretty nice. So where you will align this value is with your hair variable. So you'll go to your hair variable over here, and the current value output you will connect to the number displayer's number/range. So now if I change the value here, and I make this 1, then of course this is going to change. But of course, friends, we don't want to have to go into our variable every time and manually change the value, because that is what we in South Africa call a las, something that's, you know, just a bit of a pain to do. So what we're going to do in order to alleviate the situation and make it a little bit easier is add in a bit of a controller. So this is going to use a few AND gates, this is going to use a few selectors, so get ready for this, friends. So first up, we're going to get ourselves a controller sensor. And this controller sensor, we're going to delete all the various wires that we've got here because we don't need them. This is going to be a remote controllable one. So we'll go to the important properties and we'll go remote controllable. Fabulous. So next, what we're going to do is make it so that when we sort of are pushing a particular button, it is going to take us to our various settings. So for example, we'll have hair, and we'll have like eye color, and we'll have whatever else. And what we're going to need for that is a selector. So we're going to go logic and processing and get ourselves a selector. That is looking quite nice over there. So we're going to make it so that when we press the up and down buttons, it is going to cycle through our various character creation options. So when we press down, it's going to go to the next port, and when we press up on the D-pad, it is going to take us to the previous port. Now, how will we have a bit of a visual representation of something being selected? Well, what we can do for that is we can put down a keyframe, and you can just go to this chap over here, and you can make it so that like a border appears around it. Or you can make it so that there's a bit of a color change in terms of the font. Or you can make it so that it's... I mean, really, you can do anything. I think what I might do is go for the border. But I might make such border a little bit rounder. Just a little bit rounder. And maybe not so large. It seems a little bit large to me. Anyone else see that? Seems a little bit large to me. Anyway, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make it so that when our value is here, we're going to have hair selected. In fact, it's a little bit long on that side as well. I'm just going to make a quick edit. There we go. That's nice. It's a little bit long on the left. Is anyone else seeing that? Do you think that initial space is still there? I think we're good. Okay. Well, that's what it'll look like. Just be careful of text displays, friends, because you can spend your whole life, you know, trying to just align them and get them just right. Remember what you're doing and don't get too lost. But of course, if you love the attention to detail, knock yourself out. Okay, sweet. So then we'll have hair, and then it will be selected. So then what we're going to do next is make it so that now we want to be able to change the value. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a nice little node and then another one, and we're going to make both of them no port nodes. So we'll go where it says create port, we're going to say no port. So it's not going outside of this microchip, it's just sort of neatening up our logic so there aren't too many wires. And we're going to make it so that when we press right and when we press left, it goes to these various ports. And these are the ports that are going to be, okay, increase the value and decrease the value. So this node I'm going to call plus, and this node I'm going to call minus. So here we have plus and here we have minus. Lovely stuff. So it gets a little bit trickier here, because now we want to make it so that when we are currently in our hair, when we're in the first sort of region, so we'll have hair and we'll have eye color. So when we are here and the right arrow on the D-pad is pressed, then it is going to increase the value of hair by 1. So I'm going to go to logic and processing and get us a variable modifier. This variable modifier, which we will connect here, will be affecting what variable? Where it says variable name over here, you're going to go down and you're going to go to hair. That's lovely. And you're going to say add, and you're going to say 1. You don't have to worry about scope at the moment. But yes, so you're going to say hair and you're going to say add 1. So now it is making hair equal to 1. And if you press it, if it happens again, it'll make hair equal to 2, and so on and so forth. Then the exact opposite is going to happen when we do this one. So we're going to say when hair is selected, that's what A means, and I've pressed left on the D-pad, it's going to reduce it by 1. So we'll copy this variable modifier, we'll power it here, but now instead of adding 1, it's going to add -1. So you go here and you go -1. So there we are, friends. Now let's quickly go over it again. So we've got our interface over here. If I play, I've got my interface over here. We have this one that is selected at the moment. This is of course our hair. I'm just going to rename this keyframe so we know what's happening. So this is our hair selected. So our hair sort of selection over here. And then when we press right or left on the D-pad, it is going to change the value of hair. So let's do a bit of a run through. So if I press right on the D-pad, it'll take us to 1. If I press right again, it'll take us to the next hairstyle. If I press right another time, we'll get our next hairstyle. And of course, if I press left, we'll cycle through our hairstyles again until we get back to our lack of hairstyle. So friends, that's pretty, like, this logic alone is pretty much all it takes to make a customizer. You have your user interface, your text displayers, you have your controller, you have your selector that determines the different things that you're going to customize, you have your nodes and your AND gates that help you to, you know, only change the value when a particular section is selected, and then you have your variable modifiers that change your variables values, which is of course connected to a calculator with all the various things. You should also name these keyframes, friends, so that you know which hairstyles you've got. If you have like a specific name for them, or even if you just want to call it hairstyle 1, 2, and 3. Always good things to note. So this is the basic logic, friends, and if you can do this, you're pretty much sorted. Everything else now is just bells and whistles and kind of just increasing the complexity of things by just adding in a bunch more wires. So instead of like having it all connected to A, we're also going to have it connected to B, so we're going to have twice the wires, and it's going to look a lot messier, but all the logic is of course the same. But yes, there will be some more tips and tricks for color and all those sorts of things, so if you're interested in those things, stick around. Alrighty. Our hairstyles are looking pretty cool. However, I think it might be a good idea to add a little bit of color to these chaps to make them a little bit more interesting. So there are a few approaches to color that you could take when it comes to customization. You could have a very simple system which will work kind of like this one, in that you'll have your hair color variable, for example. So you can have your hair color variable, and so we'll call this hair color, and you could have a bunch of different sort of colors, and in fact what you can do is copy this whole arrangement with the calculators and everything, and of course remember to change the name of this variable, and then friends, you're pretty much halfway there. So you've got your hair color variable, you're going to add in a keyframe. And what's cool about keyframes, friends, is there are actually some tools that you can still use while a keyframe is active. So you can go to your various hairstyles here, and you can be like, okay, cool, I'm going to go into modes, I'm going to go into coat mode, and I'm going to make it maybe a sort of dark brown. So you'll go into these chaps, and you will apply that dark brown, or whatever color you like, to all the hairstyles in question, and you can be like, okay, sweet, that's looking pretty cool, and you'll say when hair value is equal to 0, it's going to be its default color, which is black. Then when it is equal to 1, it'll be brown. And then of course you can add in another keyframe, and you can be like sweet, sweet, sweet. And then I think I'll be like, you know, let's make the next color like a red. And of course you can use all of these preset colors that they have. All you have to do is, of course, just use coat mode. And yeah, friends, you can have a pretty cool time with these, and use all of these various colors and attach a particular keyframe onto each of them. And when you do this, you will of course need to have one keyframe for every color that you want to have. And then yeah, you'll pretty much go to your interface. So I'll copy hair color over here. I'll just make it so that we can see what is going on. So I'll just grab it. Whoops. Then I'll press play, and I'll just be like, cool, cool, cool. And I'll be like, okay, sweet. I'm going to name this one H color. And I'm going to have to sort of arrange it slightly differently. I'm going to be like, okay, sweet. I'll make this a little bit longer. I might add a bit of a line break between them. So there we are. That's looking cool. Oh, sorry. You know what's wrong. This keyframe over here is affecting the size of this chap. So I'm going to go hair color. The line break is a little bit large, if you ask me. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to go sweet, sweet, sweet. We're going to have hair color over here. And yeah, so that's looking pretty sweet. I've got hair color. Then I'm going to do a sort of a similar situation to what we've got here. I'm going to copy this guy and move it so it's over here. And then I'm going to copy this number displayer and align it with this. Of course, friends, you can make your own interfaces a lot better looking than mine. I'm just keeping it a little bit simple for now. And then we're going to connect hair color to this number displayer. And now, in order to change the value of the hair color variable, what we're going to do is get ourselves a new keyframe. And in this keyframe, we're going to add in a border. And we're going to do sort of like what we did a little bit earlier. You know, we make a little bit of a border arrangement here. We change the curviness of it. We'll need to do some sort of size adjustments as needed. And then this will show that we have our hair color highlighted. If your thing is a little bit to the left, it's probably because of your alignment. So you might want to be like, okay, cool, I'm going to align it like this, or maybe like that, or, you know, whatever it might be. So yeah, mess around with that as you desire. Have a bit of space there. And that's looking cool. And of course, you will connect this to the B port. And I'm going to call this hair color selected. So as you can see, friends, we're pretty much repeating all the steps from the previous sort of situation. So we have the hair color, we have the sort of just the little slider, you know, the little arrows on either side, and then we have the value itself, which is connected directly to the hair color variable. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to copy the AND gates and the variable modifiers. We will copy them both. And for this one, we're going to say when we're connected not to the A port, but to the B port, which is our hair color. So when we're connected to B, for both of these chaps, and when the right D-pad is pressed, it's going to increase it. And what is it going to increase? Not hair, but hair color. And then when the left button is pressed, it's going to decrease hair color. So as you can see, friends, I've pretty much just added another level to our customization. I've added in just like a new sort of element on our interface. I've added in a new sort of selection for that, and then I've got the logic that allows us to increase and decrease the variable's value. So now if we give this a playthrough, I can of course switch between hair and hair color. Oops, I also did this in lowercase instead of caps. But now of course I can have my hair, and then if I press right, it'll make it brown. If I press it again, we'll have a nice red color, and so on and so forth. So friends, this is the first system for changing color, and it's pretty cool, it's pretty robust. It just requires a lot of changes when it comes to like having keyframes, because every color that you have to have a single keyframe for it. Of course, you can have multiple keyframes active at the same time to create, blends of colors. So, for example, if you make like red and you make blue, then you'll get like a nice purple if they're activated at the same time. So there is in fact another way that you can change colors of things in Dreams that uses the internal Dreams logic and doesn't need you to make 100 million keyframes to change things around. There's also a lot more variation. So let's get stuck in. I've actually set up a few things. I've just done a little bit of a user interface section already, just so that so here we are. We don't spend too much time on the user interface because there's only so much you can learn from me, moving text displays around. But the sort of thing of importance here is I've added in new hair color variables, 3 of them, with a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 1. And these correlate to R, G, and B. So these are the red, green, and blue colors. This is the color system that Dreams uses to determine the various colors it has. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So what we're going to do for this one is basically change the value of these 3 variables, and that will give us a whole huge range of colors. Of course, so for example, how we get this to connect to our sculpt is via a splitter. So what I'm going to do here is, sorry, not a splitter, but actually a combiner. So I'm going to put down a combiner over here. I'm going to go L1 and square, and then I'm going to go color. Now, as you can see, we've got R, G, and B, red, green, and blue. So I'm going to connect them here. So my hair color red, my hair color green, and my hair color blue. So that is looking pretty nice. And then I'm going to connect the output of this combiner into our various sculpts. So I've got my first hair sculpt over here. I'm going to connect it to the cool circly bit over here and make sure that tint amount is 200%. Then I'm going to connect it to my other hair sculpt. That's looking pretty cool. And finally my last hair sculpt, which is my spiky one. I'm going to connect it here. As you can see, right to the sort of the circly bit. Oh, and sorry, remember to change tint amount to 200%. Make sure you do that to all your hair chaps over there. So for example, if I wanted to make my hair color brown, then what you would do is you would go in terms of the red value, you'd make that 0.5, and then you would make the green value something like 0.3. And then you get a sort of, I suppose this is a little bit more yellow than that. So what I could do is make it like 0.2. And as you can see, it gets a little bit browner. And if I made it 0.1, it gets like a little bit of like an orange, sort of tilt to it. If you increase the old value here, if you increase the blue value, you get like a bit of a purpley violety sort of situation going on. And as you can see, we don't have to have any presets here. We don't have any preset colors that we use with keyframes or whatever. We literally just use Dreams' sort of internal color logic and some variables to change the color of pretty much anything we want. So that's pretty cool, friends. But how do we actually make it so that we have some variables here? So of course, I've got these set up nicely in my user interface, and we can of course connect the hair color red to this number range, the green to this one, and the blue to this one, so that as these increase, it reflects on our on our interface there. But how do we actually change these values and make it a sort of usable system? So what we're going to do is But like, so that's where it kind of differs a bit. There's not the sort of calculator and keyframe system, which is the typical one we use. Rather, we just have our three variables, and we have a combiner that uses the dreams as sort of built-in logic. But this section where we change the value is pretty much the same. The only difference is the value that we change it by. So I'm going to copy these AND gates and these variable modifiers for hair color. I'm going to make a nice little copy over here. So I'm going to make it so that our third port, which is correlating to the third item on our list, which is hair color, the red value of the hair color. So that is what C is going to be. I'm going to connect each of those to our AND gates. And then when it is hair color red, when hair color red is selected and we press right on the D-pad, it's going to increase the hair color red value. It's going to add, but not 1, friends. This one is going to add 0.1. And the reason that we add that value is it makes it so that there's a little bit of variation. So rather than having it just 0 and 1, because if it's 0, it's going to be, if everything's 0, it's going to be like all black, or it's going to be all white. And then if you make it 1, then it's just going to be red. But if you increase it by small amounts, so for example, if you have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 in red, and then you have 0.5 in blue, like we did earlier, you know, there was like a bit of variation. That's where all the mixes of colors come in. So we want to increase it by a sort of more incremental amount. And of course, we want to decrease it by an incremental amount as well. So instead of going -1, it'll go -0.1. And that is pretty fabulous. I will now just create a little bit of a keyframe situation so that we can see that we have this guy selected. So I'm going to go border. I'm going to change that chap around a little bit. Whoopsie. I'm going to go make it a little bit rounder. And that's looking pretty cool. And of course, I'll connect it to the C port. And now, if I go down, I'll go to my hair color red. Oh, I might want to give myself some hair first. And now I can have this value over here. And as you can see, the intensity of the red is increasing and decreasing and so on and so forth. Wait, it's not actually decreasing. Why isn't it decreasing? Why isn't it decreasing? Also, one thing for the number displayer is you'll increase the amount of decimal places that are displayed. So this is, oh, you know what I did wrong? I didn't change which variable was being affected. Classic rookie error. Make sure that all the variables that you're modifying are the actual variables in question that you're interested in. That's a very common mistake. When you copy something, you don't actually change all the stuff you need to change. So now I have my hair color red, and I've got some hair. I've got 0.1, 0.2. So you see, at the moment, it's kind of between black and red. So it's like a kind of a dark brown or like a very maroony sort of color. But as you increase it, the red becomes more intense until you get to 1, where it's at its most intense. And then, friends, you're pretty much going to do the exact same logic for green and blue. Okay, friends, I'm just going to be fast forwarding over this section because it's pretty much more of the same. As with what we've been doing this whole time, we're just copying the AND gates, copying the variable modifiers, of course, adding in the keyframes that we need to add in, and then we're pretty much just experimenting with it. So the green and the blue work exactly like the red, nothing special here, so I just thought I would fast forward it. Alright, let's get back to it. So when we are on our 5th item which is being selected, which is the hair color's blue value, and we increase the value, or we decrease the value, that is going to happen. And of course, it is going to be affecting hair color blue and hair color blue. And as you can see, friends, we're pretty much just repeating steps. Give ourselves some hair. Here we have some values. Here we have some values. Here we have some values. And of course, now we've got a bit of a nice gray. We can increase our blue. We can give ourselves a bit of a purple there. If we have green and blue, we can give ourselves like a bit of a, you know, almost like a turquoisey oceanic color. This one is also very similar to your puppet's, like sort of, or I think this one is your puppet's sort of skin color, the default color. 0.7 green and 1 blue, or like 100% blue, you know what I mean? But anyway, as you can see, there's a lot more colors, friends, when you mess around with this, and it gives your characters, or sorry, it gives your players a bit of option when it comes to, you know, variation in color. You can add even more variation in color, and the way that you would do that is when it changes this value, rather than it increasing it by 0.1, you could make it increase it by 0.05, and then you would have not 10 varieties of red, but 20 varieties of red. And so, as you can imagine, this system uses the built-in sort of dreams logic, color logic, to give you a whole slew of colors and like every possibility you can imagine. Yes, friends, and so that's pretty much all there is to it. I believe I just want to quickly check something, because of course you can have black hair, and I believe you can also have white hair if you make all the values 1. Yeah, there you are. So if you make all the values 1, you can have white hair. If you make all the values 0, you can have black hair. If you want red hair, you've got it. If you want blue hair, oh sorry, green hair, you've got it. Varying shades of green. If you want blue hair, you've got it. And so there you are, friends. So this system is there's a lot more variety in terms of the system. Of course, if you just want something simple and you're like, that's cool, that's a lot of difficulty and all sorts of business, that's fine. You can just have preset colors as well. But just be aware that the systems do not work together, because I set the tint amount to 200% here. And when you set the tint amount to 200% and you have, so basically I've got these things telling them what values they are, and I'll have a keyframe telling them what value they are. So it's just not going to work. So these systems don't work together. You can either have a preset color system, or you can have a variable color system, an RGB color system, and whichever works for your game is of course the best one for your game, whichever one you choose. But I thought I would show you how to use both of them. But once again, just to clarify, you cannot use both of them. You can either have a preset system, or you can have a variable system like this. Okay, sweet friends, on to the next section. Now, there's not actually all that much variation when it comes to other things. Like, for example, if you want to make your character have like different eyes, or different nose, different mouth, all those sorts of things, even head shape, it pretty much uses the same system as the hair. So for example, if we do the eyes, we'll go into the head. We will just make sure that we aren't too worried about all the different hairs. So when you copy this head, just make sure you're using it just as like the base, if you know what I mean, so that you can get your mirror snap working. We can turn off the grid snap, put the mirror on, and for example, we can give our puppet some eyes. And of course, if you want to change the color of these eyes, you can of course just delete that, grid snap, stick those eyes into the head, L1 and X. Cha-cha-ching. You'll of course want to make it so that, because of course by default they'll fall through, so you'll want to make sure that these eyes are not movable. And now you've added some eyes to your old character. And if you want to change the color of the eyes, you can of course use the preset color system we went through, or you can use the RGB color system that we went through. And all you have to do is connect it to these eyes. If you want to have different kinds of eyes, for example, you just copy that head as a template again, and you design yourself some different eyes. You could have some little like semicircle eyes. So in order to give yourself a half circle instead of like a full sphere, you go O1 and square, and then you go section over here, and you can have a little half circle going on there. And then of course you'll delete that base, put on that grid snap, and you'll make it so that it's a part of the head. Oh, I think I've gone in too many times there. You make it so that the head and these elements are sort of, if you can select them at the same time, they're in the same sort of layer of the group. But if I go L1 and X again, you'll see now that the head and these guys are like in a separate layer from each other, or that the head's in a different layer. And when I just mean the layers of scope, not too much of a problem to worry about, but just something to consider. Yeah, so now we have different kinds of eyes. We'll make these sort of circular eyes the default, and we'll make this one of the options. So we'll just make that invisible at first. And then, of course, if we want to have some eye logic, we can add in a new microchip, for example. And we can say, like, face. This will be the face customizations. And we can just copy and paste this business, not the keyframes, but we'll copy and paste the calculator. We'll change the name of this variable to eyes. And then it'll be when it's 0, it's of course, it's just going to be, it's going to do nothing because these circular dudes are visible by default. But then when it is, or actually what we should do is, we will make it so that these eyes are invisible by default. So they're all invisible by default. And I mean, you could make it that your character has no eyes if you wanted that to be an option. Then you would just leave 0 sort of empty. But you could make it so that this one is visible when it's equal to 0. Basically every version of your hair or of your eyes must be connected to a keyframe. If any of the versions are visible by default, then if you activate another set of eyes, then that original version will still be visible. So they should actually all be invisible when you first make them, so that you don't have any overlapping eyes or overlapping sort of sculpts, you know what I mean? And that's pretty cool. So that'll be when eyes is equal to 0 and when eyes is equal to 1. And of course you can have a whole bunch of different variations of different eyes. And then what you'll do is you will copy this business. Of course these ones are hair color related ones. So these are all hair color related. So if you want to, you can do like a little bit of an offset. So they're off to the side. As you can see, we've got a whole bunch of wires, but the connection is actually very simple. It's just from the selector and from the AND gate. From the selector and from the nodes to all the various AND gates. I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to make it so that I'll just start a sort of new tier over here. When we get to our next sort of stage, we're all connected to the F port. So when we get to the next stage and we press right on the D-pad, it will increase. When we press left on the D-pad, it will decrease. What variable are we looking at? We're looking at eyes. And then I will just do all the classics, you know. So I'll have the eye over here. Eyes. I will of course change the position of this chap. Turn off the grid snap so it doesn't interfere with us there. I'll change the position of the eyes. Cha-cha-ching. Add in all the various bits and bobs that we've got here. And really we're not doing anything new. We're just making a new version of it. So I connected the eyes variable value here. And of course I'm going to move that variable down here. This doesn't need to have a decimal place, so we can reduce that to 0. And then we'll be able to switch between our two eye values. We must also just add in our keyframe. And our keyframe will make it so that this has a border and that it has a particular shape. So that's looking cool, so we know that it's selected. Because I copied this text display, I copied that one, it means that if I click on this with X, you'll see that actually 2 keyframes are affecting it. So you'll go to this one and make it so that you de-animate this guy. Something important to remember if you ever copy keyframes. And we'll connect that to F. And this will of course be eyes. Very nice. And so now if I go to my character and I go down to eyes, I can switch between the 2 eye options that we have there. And of course you can have a bunch of options. Now it's important to set your max values. So for example for eyes, I think the original value was like, it goes up to 3. But as you can see, I haven't actually set set sculpts to be equal to those, or to be activated by those variable numbers. So if you've only got two things, or you've only got however many, it's important that you set your max variables so that your players aren't like sort of, they keep going to the right or keep going to the left, and there's just like a never-ending, like list of numbers that aren't actually connected to anything. So if I've only got two types of eyes, I'll make it 0 and 1, so that we have it over here, which is very cool. Doo -doo -doo -doo. So for the mouth, I'm going to not use sculptures, but actually paint strokes. So for this one, what you can do is just go into paint mode, make sure that your surface snap is turned on, and then I'm going to use the black color, and then you can sort of, just draw a bit of a smile on their face. You don't necessarily have to make it, sort of symmetrical. If you want to make it symmetrical, that's cool. You must just use mirror, and you must just have a bit of an idea of where the middle of their face is, and just have some fun with it. Just give them a little cat mouth there. But yeah, friends, it's really up to your own sort of innovation, however you want to do it. If when you move it around you feel like it's getting a little bit too close to the sculpt, you can just quickly turn off surface snap and then just move it out ever so slightly as you desire. And so that's cool. And then I might quickly make this one invisible, and to do that I'll go L1 and square and reduce the opacity to 0. And now I might do another paint on this chap. You'll also of course want to make sure that it's part of the head sculpt, just like our eyes and our hair and so on and so forth. And now I'm going to do another painting, and I'm going to put my surface snap back on, and I'm going to give them just a bit of a cheeky smile. Oops. Okay, so for this one I'll turn the mirror off. A bit of a cheeky smile. It's just a little bit on the side. Which is pretty cool. So that's also in their head at the moment. I'm just going to go to it and make sure that its opacity, it might be a little bit hard to select. So yeah, you might have to get nice, close and personal. And I'm going to set that to 0. And for this system, I've already sort of set it up by just copying the other stuff. We've got our mouth variable, then we've got our various calculators. So we'll say that when it's equal to 0, you won't have a mouth. We'll leave that as an option. But then if you want to have a nice smiley face, so we'll go to this one and we'll go opacity equals 100%. So of course paintings are slightly different because they don't have a visible or invisible. They have opacity, which you can set to 100% or 0%, so on and so forth. So you're going to set that to 100, connect it here, and then you'll put on another keyframe for that side smile, and you'll increase the opacity. Oh, whoops, sorry, not that one, but this one. And you'll increase the opacity to 100% for that one. And you can of course have some fun, design yourself a little bit of or maybe not have fun and design a sort of a sad face. So we'll go. So there's a bit of a sad face for the little. If your puppet is feeling a little bit melancholy. That's looking cool. As you can see, there's slight overlap with the puppet sculpt, so you can turn off surface snap. You can leave mirror snap on, and you can just have it like, ooh, so that's looking cool. We're going to go opacity 0%, put down a keyframe, make it 100%, so that by default it's not visible. But if you activate this, it will be visible. And then of course we will do all the bells and whistles that we've got over here. You'll be sick of this by now, so I'll actually just speed it up. And now we can view our various mouths. So there you are, friends. We have some eye variation. We can make our character look a little bit sad with their, hair arrangement. Ooh, they're a bit of a sad one. They've got some some orange hair, red hair. Now they got some pink hair, and they're having a great time. A little bit of violet hair, you know, going on there. It's looking very nice. And yeah, friends. So that's pretty much all you have to do. That's the only variation that comes in when you. Now they're looking very suave, very fancy. Now they're looking sort of mischievous. And all of these slight changes that come with, you know, very subtle changes, you can really start to, you know, discover a character in all these things. Um, I think it's, you know, even just slight variations can make a big difference. Um, yes, so that's looking pretty cool at the moment. Um, so we've got our eyes, and we know how to do sculpts with the eyes. We know how to do paint strokes. We know how to have funky hair and all those sorts of things. And yes. Okay, friends, so I've changed the interface around a little bit, but the main thing that I want to show you is also the noses. So, of course, you can have systems that use entirely sculpts, and all you have to do is change the visibility of those sculpts as it, you know, reaches that particular section of the keyframe. You can have systems that use entirely paint strokes, and that will change the opacity, but you can use both as well. So for noses, I've got noses that are sculpts, and I've got noses that are paintings. And I think that sorry, I haven't actually seen this face, and that's that's pretty funny. Nice little bulldog face going on there. Um, and I think, friends, you can already see that how bust the system is, because you can already start to develop characters. You know, I've just made it a grumpy little old man sort of a thing. And now you can completely change it and go for the, you know, the crazy dude with red hair, you know. Change the eyes around, change the mouth. And yeah, you know, just you can completely change the vibe just with a few edits. And yes, you can really just use the opacity system, and you can use the sculpt system to create a whole wide variety of stuff. Of course, I increased the max value of the nose variable and added in a few keyframes and treated them just like the others. It's a really robust system that works, you know, quite easily with, you know, all these kinds of variations and all these different systems. So one thing that you might run into, friends, is your logic might be getting a little bit complicated, your selector might be running out of ports, and the page where you're customizing your character, it might be getting a little bit cluttered or a little bit full. So something that's pretty useful for a customization screen is a bit of a page swap system. So on your first page you might have like hair and face, and then your second page might be like the shape of your head and your, you know, body shape or whatever it might be, skin color, all those sorts of things. So you can create pages for each of them. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. And there's it's kind of not too different from the system. It's kind of a similar copy paste vibe. It'll just all be happening on a different page. Certain text displays will be turned on, other ones will be turned off. And yeah, it's actually not too different, but let's get stuck in. So the information that is going to change is basically all these text displays. So we want to make it so that, you know, at one point these text displays are displaying and at another point they aren't. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab all the text displays in question and we're going to put them into a microchip. Logic and processing, grab ourselves a microchip. So we can copy all of these ones, not the main two on the top, because this one is the create your character one, and this one is the sort of background that we've got over here. This one, woohoo! So we're going to select all these other chaps, and we're going to copy and paste them into our microchip. And we'll call this one hair and face. Hair and face. And not only that, but we might even add in another text displayer. So I'll copy this one, and we'll call this hair and face, so that we know which sort of page we're on. And I think I'll place it sort of hereabouts. So now we know that we are on the hair and face icon, or the hair and face page. Now to differentiate between pages, friends, I'm just going to add in a little bit of artistic vibes here. So I'm going to copy this original one that we've got so that we know the box is the sort of same size and stuff. I'm going to go here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, but I'm also going to align it to the right. And then I'm going to go like here. I'm going to make it so that it is, well, I actually want it to be behind. So what you might need to do is go to this one and make it 1 on the list. And now if this one, so if this one is 1 and this one is 0, then it will be behind it. So I'm going to place it here, and this is going to be the like sort of bookmark, if you know what I mean. And then this will be hair and face. So this one I'm going to make angle bracket UI head gadget, and then close with another angle bracket, and then I've got a nice head. So if I open it like that, I'll see that I've got a nice little head looking sort of vibe going on there. So that'll be the hair and face page, or the like head face, you know what I mean, all that sort of stuff. Following that, I can make a copy of this. And if you are interested, if you are interested in knowing how to look for icons, you should definitely use Tap Giles. He has a lovely Dreams icon webpage that has all the sort of Dreams icons, and they're categorized very nicely. It also includes the new Font 87 stuff. So definitely check out that page. I'll add a link below. And sweet. So I think what I'll do for this one, this will be the sort of body changes or whatever. So for this one, I'll go UI, which of course stands for user interface, UI biped, close with an angle bracket, and it's got a little like person sort of a shape. If you aren't so fond of the positioning of it, you might want to go to alignment and make it center, or you might just need to sort of mess around with it until you're happy. So for example, you might just make it a bit smaller. So there might be a little bit of finicking around to get it to look nice. But yeah, so you know, this is the sort of thing. I think I'll just maybe do 2 pages or maybe another one, just to show you guys the basic vibe of how this works. Also, if this isn't working for you and the alignment's just not looking right, what you could do is you could delete this, copy this chap so that the sort of the size and spacing and whatnot is the same. So I can be like, okay, cool. That's looking nice. Then you can delete this and just press triangle so that there's a space in it. Because if there's no text in it, it won't display. And then you can just say UI biped again. And now this one, you can turn off the background and the shadow and all the various bits and bobs so that it's just the little man. And then you can place it wherever you wish. So that's if you want like a little bit more control over where it is and maybe the size of it as well. So that's pretty cool. So there you are. So of course this just uses sort of another one and all that sort of biz. So what we could say is that when hair and face is activated, then one of these will be like a different color, for example. So maybe we say that by default, the background will be like gray, let's say. So it could be like a bit of a grayish color. I'm not sure exactly where that is on the color wheel, but I'll just try and sort of eyeball it so that they're similar-ish. How's that looking? Thereabouts. Maybe slightly higher on this end. Okay, sweet. So we'll say like, okay, cool, they're gray by default. But when this microchip is active, then we'll make it so that this is maybe like white or like red, or you know, whatever sort of selection color you want. You can sort of specify that when this thing is activated, and you can call this keyframe like page 1. Okay, sweet. Then we'll add in a little bit of a selector. Selector, which is over here. And of course, when it's connected to A, it'll power this hair and face. And then, of course, you could make an entirely new one. And this will be our like body shape or whatever it'll be, you know, let's call it body. This will include things like skin color and the shape of your head, or I don't know, stuff like that. And then this one will, rather than highlighting that first page, it'll highlight the second one. So it'll go white like that. And we'll connect that, of course, to the B port. And this will also have all of its own sort of things. So we might just delete these for now. And have it so that we've just got like one, for example. So it might be skin color, for example. However you spell color is, of course, perfectly fine. Swing. So we've got skin color there. You can change the spacing on like a different page, you know, whatever you like. But I'm just going to delete that quick. So we've got skin color, for example. And if you want to switch between pages, friends, then what you'll do is you will go to your controller sensor that you've got over here, and you'll make it so that when you press, let's say, R1 and R2, or R1 and L1, it'll change the pages. So R1 will go to the next page, L1 will go to the previous page. And now if we have a bit of a run through, I'm on the hair and face page. Now I press R1, and sorry, it still says hair and face. Let me quickly just change that. So we don't want it to say hair and face, we want it to say body. Body. And so here we are, friends. So now we're on the first page. We can switch to the second page and we can make all the various changes there. So on hair and face, we can change the hair, we can change the color, we can change the eyes, the mouth, the nose. Then, oh, that's kind of creepy looking. Then we can go to our other page and and of course we can then sort of change the page there. Of course, this selector and all of the things that are connected to it are actually also related to hair and face. So you can actually copy like pretty much all of these as well. Let me just make sure all of these are connected, because of course when you're on one page you don't want to be changing the values from something on a different page. So not only will the text displays all go there, all of this logic and also these keyframes as well, all of these keyframes will also go into that hair and face chip. Might need to just space it out a bit, just walk it over. So now I can go down and do all the sort of business, and then if I press R1, it's not going to do anything because I haven't set anything up yet. But of course, if I wanted to set something up, so for example, let's go ahead and do like a bit of a skin color thing. So what we will do for that is we'll get ourselves a selector. We'll also, I've actually copied the entire controller. Sorry, so that's not exactly Cricut. You want to keep the controller outside so that you can be controlling multiple things even if this isn't powered. So make sure you have your controller sensor outside. And now, sorry, I will neaten this up at the end. At the minute it looks a little crazy. But, so essentially we've got this. We've got our selector. We've got our first page, hair and body. Then we've got our second page, or hair and face, and then we've got our second page. And so if we wanted to change skin color, what we would do is use the system just like we've got here. So that'll include the nodes, that'll include the selector, the AND gates, and the variable modifiers. We can copy this business, put it into our body, just like that. And then we'll make it so that when up and down are pressed, just like we have before. So when we've got up, it'll take us to the previous port over here. When we've got down, it'll take us to the next port. When we've got left, it will reduce the value. That is the reduce one, right? Yeah. And when we go right, it will increase the value of whichever variable we're talking about. We'll make a quick variable as well. So we go microchip. We'll call this one just body related stuff. And then we'll make a nice variable. This one will be skin color. And I think for this system we'll use a preset sort of skin color system just for the sake of time. So I'll go 0 and I'll have, let's say, 3 skin colors, although 3 will actually mean it has 4. Okay, sweet. So 3 aside from the default, as it were. And so that's looking cool. So now I've got a skin color thing. Make sure that when it is B and the buttons are pressed, that we change the skin color variable by 1. We change the skin color variable by -1. As you can see here, -1 and 1. This is of course all familiar to us. I'm just doing it from scratch for the second page so that we know how it all works once again. And we can test ourselves, as it were. Can you guess what comes next? We're going to put down a little keyframe that's connected to the various ports, and then we're going to outline our skin color. We're going to do a bit of a circle box, and then it's going to do that, connect it to the right port, and then here we are. So we can change between the two, cha 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 cha. And when we do so, we will have access to a different set of variables, so they aren't all sort of, active at the same time. One thing, however, friends, is as I've created these variables here, so for example, I've got my hair and my face variables, your body variable must also be out here. The reason that all of your variables must be completely separate from any switching or on and off system is because we want this to be able to persist in dreams, which means that if you change something and you want it to be persistent when you change scenes, for example, you want all the variables to be accessible from the beginning so that the persistency works. So for example, if I have body in here, for example, and I don't have the page system anymore in my character, it's not going to show that they're the customizations that have happened there. So you must make sure that all of your variables, so for example these ones over here, must not be in any system that turns on or off, or because you want your variables to be always accessible by dreams, as well as all the various keyframes that they are connected to, because this is what determines your character looking the way that they look. Okay, sweet. So we've got the skin color. We're going to copy the calculators and we'll connect them here. So that's looking cool. And then I'm going to go, okay, cool. Let's go skin color. And I'm going into my character when I've got while I'm recording, I'm going to go modes. And I'm going to go coat mode. And then I'm going to go into their head, but just make sure that you're on just the head, because if you do the whole thing, then all of their body is going to change. Now you can go, whoopsie, you can go into coat mode again and change the color of this part of their body and this part. Alrighty, so now we have made it so that their skin color changes from blue to the sort of tan color. You also might not want to make like their entire body actually change color, because then it'll kind of look as if they aren't wearing any clothes. So you might want to just go and be like, okay, sweet, into paint mode or whatever it might be, and change the color of their sort of clothes so it looks like they're wearing, I don't know, t-shirt and shorts or whatever it might be. You could also make their clothes something that changes as you customize. Like you could make that another page so that they have a particular color of you know, shirt or t-shirt, like shorts or whatever it might be, so that those various things can change as you change the colors. But yes, friends, so here we are. We've got our character. We can change the hair. We can change all sorts of various things. Make them all weird and wonderful. And yeah, just basically have a cool time. You can of course then also change the color of their skin, you know, make the various changes to the body. I just didn't connect the value. As you can see, the value here is still 0. So I'm just gonna connect the value of this chap, the body, to the number display here, so that I can see my various skin colors. And there you go, friends. So now we know how to switch pages and make sure that we aren't changing things in the wrong page, for example. And that is looking pretty cool. I will add in some more features quickly, and then I will also, like, I'll just add in some more like skin colors, and I'll add in some more, you know, whatever it might be, just so that we've got a bit more variation. And then I'm going to show you how to make it persist in dreams. Okay, friends, so we've got some extra skin colors here. We've got a little bit of variation when it comes to our various bits and bobs. We can really start to have some fun. One thing I want to do quickly before we do the persistency is to actually maybe just change the lighting a bit. So of course lighting will depend on your various scenes and stuff, but it might be like tricky to see some things. So you might want to put down like a bit of a light tool, put it on diffuse, reduce the brightness so it's not too high, and then just sort of place it in a position so that you can, you know, see your character nice and clearly, and there aren't like crazy shadows or whatever that are maybe messing with them or whatever it might be. So yeah, friends, there's just a bit of variation. You can have some different skin colors, you can have these things, and you can have some nice lighting. You might also want to like add in a little bit of rotation, for example. So what you could do for that is just create like a keyframe, and this keyframe could be that it makes your character turn their head like this way. They turn their head this way, like when you use maybe like the right analog stick or whatever. So this will be they look to the right. And then it'll be our right, of course, from our perspective. And then one where they look to the left. So just so that you can get a bit of a vibe there. And you're also going to make it so that they do it kind of slowly. So let's go 2 seconds for that to happen. 2 seconds for this to happen. So their head kind of slowly moves to that position. It doesn't just like snap there. So this just will give you a bit of a better perspective on where your characters are. Okay, sweet. So we've got them looking right and left. So we're going to use the right stick. And when the right stick is moving, it is going to activate these various things. But which side do we look at first? In order to differentiate between, you know, up, down, left, and right, we're going to use a splitter. So we'll go right analog stick, and it'll give us an X and a Y, which is of course left, right, and up, down movement. So we're going to look at the X movement, and we're going to connect it here, positive and negative, which I believe is down and up, or I mean left and right. So I'm going to connect this one here and this one there. I think positive is right and negative is left, but I might be wrong. I'm just going to quickly check. So if I move out, yeah. So if I move it to the left, they move their head. So now we can get a better sort of view of what their hair actually looks like from the side, and you know how it all looks, and of course all these various things that we might want to do. And once we do that, we've got a pretty cool system. So now, without further messing around, let's talk about how to get persistency to work. Okay, sweet. It is now persistency time. Whoop whoop. So, friends, the most important thing to do is have all of your variables, so your hair and your hair color and all your various bits and bobs, in a place that you can identify them, so that you know that they are wherever they are. So I'm going to go to my variables, and I'm going to go persist in dream to every one of them. It's this one here that looks like a little bit of a map and all sort of funkiness. So make sure that all of these are persist in dream, so that when we change the values in our customization screen, it is going to make sure that those values are the same when our character spawns in the next scene, or whatever it might be, or they move between levels. So once again, we make them all persist in dreams. Also, as I mentioned earlier, you need to ensure that your variables are always on. So don't put them in a microchip, for example, over here. Don't put them in a microchip that turns off at any point, because if it's off, that means that that variable won't be activated. And all of the variables that are active at that time will work, but any variables that are deactivated will, of course, not work. So now I've got my various variables. So I'm going to give my character some spiky hair. I'm going to change their hair color to a nice red. I'll give them some angry eyes, a bit of a mouth there, and just a little nose. And then I think I'll give them some nice green skin. So that's looking cool, friends. And now, if we go over to my various variables, I'll see that they have all their particular values, and that's looking cool, and so on and so forth. But if I wanted this particular character to come into another scene, we're going to have to do a few things. So, first of all, what we're going to do, we'll close this business, and we're actually going to leave our dream. Okay, friends, so we are going to go to our puppet that has, of course, all our variables, and they're all persistent and all this sort of business. We are going to go to our puppet, and we are going to select them with the X button, and then we're going to go save as a new creation. I'm going to save them as a character, and I'm going to call them custom character A. Very nice. And then I'm just going to save this quickly. So I've got my character creator there. It's looking very nice. Now, friends, what we're going to do is we're actually going to leave this dream. So we're going to go exit creation. And then I'm going to go start creating, make us a new scene. And I'm just going to create some identifiable elements. So I'm going to go like, ooh, I'll give us a nice tree. Very artistically rendered, I might say, if I do say so myself. Give us a nice green. Okay, sweet. There we are. We've got a lovely tree. So we know that, whoops, if we come here, that we've got our nice tree level. Yoo-hoo! And we can do all our various, this is where we spawn after we've just created our level. So that's looking pretty cool. Now I'm going to go into search, and I'm going to select custom character A, and I'm going to put them in the middle of our scene. This is where you're going to spawn when you arrive. But we're going to make a few changes, friends. First of all that camera and the lighting stuff that we have before is gone, because of course we only saved the character. And also, we are not going to need this UI or any of this business. All we're going to need is, in fact, these variables. So you can actually press X twice, and you'll select everything. Then deselect. So all you have to do is press X on these three, or wherever your variables are stored. It might be a good idea to store all your variables in one microchip, if you aren't worried about sort of distinguishing between them. But so I've selected everything except these three, and then I'll just delete them, because they aren't actually important. All that matters is that we have these variables and that they are persistent. We can check here. They are in fact persistent. And there we go. So I'm going to save this now, and I'm going to call this level, not an element, but in fact a scene. I'm going to call this one level 1. Dum da da dum dum dum. We're just saving that. So I've got my level 1, I've got my character creator, but I actually have to make my character creator into a scene as well. So let me go into this. I'm going to do a remix. I'll remix it as a scene. I'll make it a game. And I'm going to call this character creator screen. Alrighty, so I'm just making that one. Lovely stuff. And so now I have a few scenes here. I've got my character creator screen, and then I've got level 1. Actually, also while I'm here, what I want to do is make it so that I can actually go to my next scene. Let's say, like, if I press the X button, for example, then it'll take us to the next scene. So what you'll do for that is you'll go to your controller sensor and you'll go, okay, sweet, when I press the X button, it's going to activate a door. So we go X. It's going to activate a door. This door is an exit. And you can also, I think, add like a little prompt at the bottom that'll be like cross. Because it's technically called the cross button, although I've always called it the X button. So we have cross, and that'll be start. So that's looking cool. We'll get rid of all the extra business. Alrighty. So I'm just going to put this at the bottom. That's looking cool. Okay, sweet. So if we play, start will be like over here. That looks cool. So if we press X, we're going to leave the scene. It's going to activate a doorway. And of course, that'll take us to our level 1. So here we are. And now I'm going to make a new dream. And in this dream, I'm going to have character creator screen. And I'm going to have level 1. And I'm going to connect them where the arrow is over here, the arrow that's pointing to the right. In other words, I'm going to connect the exit to the entrance of the scene. All scenes have an entrance by default, but if you want an exit, you have to add a doorway like we did. I'm going to save this. I'm just going to call this character creation test. CC test, character creation test. We're saving, we're saving. This is a very exciting episode. Thank you for sticking with me. Alrighty, so now we'll want to actually test the stream out to see if the persistence is working. So we're going to go play. And here we are, we begin with our character. Now let's give him some spiky hair. We'll go for some nice red hair. We'll give him some angry eyes, a bit of a cheeky mouth, and then a bit of a nose there. Then we'll give him some green skin. And now let us start. It takes us to our next scene. And as you can see, our character and all of the customizations have persisted. And they are now working with our character. And yeah, friends, that's pretty much all there is to it. Let's try it again. So I'm just going to close this. Okay, so let us make our second character. I'm going to give them a completely different look. We're going to give them some funkier hair. Swing. Let's go for like a dark blue. Give them a bit of more of a melancholy look. My favorite face, you guys know this one. And then let's give them some, I think blue skin is actually pretty good. I think blue skin's good. And we're going to start. And our character is there with all the correct customizations in place. We've got our sad little chap. And they can, you know, operate in the scene as is needed. And yes, friends, so pretty much all you have to do is then have this character. Of course, the version that I saved, you might want to edit. So okay, this is all looking cool. When I say you might want to edit the version, I just mean so we've got our custom character A. And what you might want to do is just go into this logic and delete all the stuff you don't need. Otherwise, of course, all the bits and bobs that you or all these various bits, whenever you add this character into your scene, you're just going to have to keep deleting that, otherwise it'll just go straight to the UI. And then you can go save, and basically we just deleted all the logic we didn't need from that version. And then you can go to your dream and you can edit it, and there should be, oh no, sorry, we're actually going to have to go into this one first and then update it within the dream. So character level 1, we're going to edit this one. You'll see we can go into update mode and we can update our character. We'll go update now, and then there won't be any visual change here that we can see, because of course we've already done all this business. But now if we add this character in again, custom character A, and we put them down, we will see that they have just the business of interest, just the variables of interest that we are interested in. So now you'll save this. There's a lot of saving and updating when you have multi-scene dreams, but I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. Alrighty, and then we'll go to our dream. We will edit it. Now we'll update it. Update. We can save. And there we are, friends. Now we have a working system that will, of course, you can have multiple scenes. You could add a whole new scene, copy your character into that, and all the customizations will be exactly the same. The only key element you need to persist in dreams is for those variables to be persistent, and for those variables as they exist in your customization screen, for those variables with the the calculators and the keyframes, those need to exist in your puppet, in every version of the puppet that exists in your various scenes. But yes, you edit them in the first thing in your character creation screen, and then from then on everything else is just a breeze. Then you can just go and mess around with your character, jump between scenes, and those customizations will be consistent throughout. So yes, friends, I'm not sure exactly how to summarize this, because there has been quite a bit of business, but let me just reset the progress of this and let's jump back in. So yes, friends, ultimately we've shown you how to basically just customize your character in terms of various systems that you can use. We've gone over how to use sort of like a sculpting system, which is very simple. All you have is your various separate sculpts. You have which each of which is connected to a particular keyframe. Again, it's maybe a good idea to name these keyframes. And a variable. So you'll have like your variable, which is the thing that you're going to be changing. You'll have various calculators that will allow you to switch between them, like the first, second, third option, so on and so forth. And then the keyframes that correlate to making that thing visible. It's the exact same system for if you use paint strokes, except instead of making it visible or invisible, you're increasing its opacity to 100%, when by default it's 0%. We also went over a few systems for color. So there's the preset system, which is as you use it, you can have, for example, 10 colors, and each of those will be connected to a particular keyframe that'll make all the hairs red and all the hairs blue and so on and so forth. Then there's another system, which is the RGB system, which is a lot more varied, and you can get sort of, characters can really go ham, or players can really go ham and make characters that they really want to make. And yes, it's a little bit more robust. You must just make sure that you connect the RGB combiner to all of the various elements that you want to change the color of. This works for eyes, this works for whatever it might be, and yeah, it's just as easy as that. It's the same story for all of these variables. When it comes to our menu, of course, we just use some funkiness with text displayers, which I'm sure all of you are very capable of. We showed you how to do a page swap with L1 and R1, and we've got the system here. On our first page, we've got all the text displays that are relevant to the first page, and we've also got our system here, which looks complex, but it's actually just one simple system, which is a selector, 2 nodes, 2 AND gates, and a plus and a minus for the variable. That's all there is, and of course the keyframe, and then we just copy it a bunch of times. So it looks complex, it looks like there's a lot, but it's actually the simple system that we created in the beginning that's just been sort of iterated upon. What is next, friends, to go over? And then of course we've got our second page where we've got a different setup, different interface, all these sorts of bits and bobs. And yeah, then of course we've got our splitter that's connected to our analog that lets us look at our character. You know, they do a bit of a head rotation so we can get a real idea of what they look like and, you know, have some fun there. And I believe, friends, that is everything we've done. So yeah, just once again, the most important elements is having the variables, making sure that they are never turned off or whatever it might be. You have your interface, you have your multiple pages, and yeah, friends, that's pretty much all there is to it. Do let me know if you have any questions, friends, because I do love getting involved in the comments. This has been quite a juicy video. So if you have any problems or getting stuck anywhere, do let me know, because yeah, I really enjoy it and I want you to be able to make your own characters and let your players make their own characters, which is just super fun. This has definitely got to be like my favorite character that I've got over here. Oh man, this is so funny. Sorry, I'm fine. So there we have our character, and of course we're going to start, and once we do so, we might have to save, because we've, you know, opened a few boxes and so on and so forth. It's going to take us to our next scene, and then our character is going to be existing in all of their glory. So friends, there you are. I hope you found this video useful. As I said, let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for all your support, and I shall catch you on the flip-flop. Peace out!